this is the wood flute, and this is mahogany, so it's a little bit harder than cedar, because a lot of the wood flutes are made out of cedar and it has a softer sound to it. This gives you a slightly better tonality to it, you know, a little bit more tone color, a little richer tone color. And we have these little whips, I call them whips, but sometimes, and they match the singing, like if you have a song, a vocal song, sometimes it'll start really hard. And the shapes of native melodies are usually, they start kind of high and they work their way down low, and then there's a lower tone that suspends. And sometimes they may go back up again, but then they come right back down again. But it's always, it's reversed, it's the opposite from like Western music. In Western music, they always tell you, like if you're a singer, crescendo into the note, hold the note, you know, from the diaphragm and all that. Ooh, and you get like crescendos on all the notes. The notes come in really, they almost sneak in without any attack, and then they crescendo up. You know, and that's the ideal to go for. But in native music, it's the opposite. It's come in really hard at the beginning, and then kind of taper down. So some of the songs, like you know, if you had just a, you know, some song going that's you know, like, and like, hey, but it's really a hard attack. Hey, you know, it's at the beginning, all the songs are like that. And it's a different tone color in the singing as well. Like, it's not like, you know, with the round open, you know, get that sine wave kind of sound. In native music, it's more of a nasal and a head voice. So it's more like, hey, it'd be a more native way of singing that way. But it's imitated on the flutes, because in the old times, the flutes and the voices had a connection to each other. And flutes were solo instruments. So some of the attacks are like that. So. And then there's also a whip at the end of some of the phrases on flute music. So if I played that last little bit like that. Like that. And that's just a stylistic trait of the flutes. And this is, it's called a two-chamber deflector flute. Is what it is. There's like a little chamber up here and a little chamber down here, and there's a block in the middle of the tubing and two holes. And so the air goes through the flute to this block, comes out the first hole, and then the air needs to jump over the second hole to go out the rest of the flute, and that's what this little wood piece is. It's a deflector plate. It's flat underneath, so the air comes out, hits the bottom of that plate, and ricochets over the second hole and goes out. And you can adjust this to adjust a little bit of the tuning and to get the proper air mixture over the second hole. That's why these things are tied and they're not like glued on there, because you need to make some adjustments. And then this one's a smaller one. I can actually take this apart. And I have these specially tuned, these flutes. A lot of I guess the most common flute for Native America is 5-hole flutes, and then 6-hole flutes are less common, but prevalent. But see, here's the 2 holes on the side of the flute right here. And there's a block right in the middle of these 2 holes, like right there. There's a block in the middle, so it's closed off inside. And the air comes out this hole and that hole, and then this little deflector plate just ricochets the air from one hole to the second hole, and then it goes out the rest. So these are pretty, very traditional native sounding flutes. And I tune these so I can play with orchestra. So they're not traditional tuning anymore. It's actually, it's got 6 holes on this side, and then it's got a thumb hole on the back to help with upper octaves and stuff. But, and I also put a thumb hole on my flute, which a lot of them don't have. And you're there's certain fingerings that you're hitting, and you're kind of like, how do I hold the flute? Because it's like, it's balancing problems. So I learned this from the other flutes I made, that if I just put a thumb hole on there, I have complete independent control over the flutes, and it makes them easier to play. So, and this is also the mahogany flute. And I like the sound of it a little bit better than the cedar flutes. So, I think we should get Pat to make you one of these, or 2, a big one in your
I love that sound. It's awesome.
This is a traditional native instrument too that we can use. I'm wondering if Rich, I would have to check the percussion department when we're down there and see what instruments they have. But this is called a Bullroar, and it's just a flat piece of wood on a cord. And what happens is that when you're spinning it, is that this piece of wood is twisting really fast, and then the cord is twisting up at the same time. And when you're spinning it, then it unwinds because it reaches a saturation point where the cord can't twist anymore, and then it starts unwinding. So when you're spinning it around in the air, sometimes it's going against the air motion, and it gives you a flutter sound, and that's what this sound is. And it rewinds that direction and then reaches a saturation point, and then it starts rewinding the first direction again. So you get kind of a rhythm that kind of goes, ooh, ooh, ooh. And that stopping point is where the string is stopped and it's changing directions. That's where the pattern comes from. So it's changing directions at the silent moment. And then, based on this instrument, I made another instrument, which is also a flute. Because I was trying to think of other ways to make flute sounds without actually blowing into the flutes. I've also got some water flute instruments that use water to do the same thing, but so on the string, this works exactly the same way as the Bullroar. The flute is spinning one direction and spinning the other direction, but because it's smooth, like the flat wood has more resistance against the air, so it goes slower. This has no resistance. It's like a little circle spinning against the air, so it goes really fast and has a different pattern to it. So I call this a bird roar. And you can vary the sound of the birds depending on how fast you play it. So if you go really slow, it sounds like little bird, or maybe one bird kind of talking. And if you go really fast, it sounds like birds just chattering, like excited birds. So this depends on.
We must use that.
Yeah. This depends on the size of the little flute. Like if you had little bigger ones, you get lower birds, and smaller birds, really little ones. You could vary it, and you could even, like if you, theoretically, I don't know, you could get like a flute the size of a trash can or something, and then like, and get some kind of low bird. But that's how they work anyway.
It's amazing.
It'd also be fun to make like 100 of these, you know.
It would be great.
Have like 100 of them all going.
Have the string section doing a little birding.
And these are deer hoof rattles, and they tie to go around your legs. People wear these dancing. So my cousin Molly Miller made these. I was over at her house last year, and she let me walk out with these.
This is so cool. Thank you so much.
So.